Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and today we just have like a quick little video discussing a specific stock and some recent events that led to it increasing greatly in price today and the past week. I believe if you check the weekly chart, yeah, it is up 28.70% just for the past week, and it's actually a pretty decently high value stock. It's at around $190 right now. But before I jump into a breakdown of why this stock actually jumped up so much this past week, I just want to say if you enjoyed these quick little videos where I discuss how various news is affecting the market and various stocks in the market, then please make sure to drop a like on the video, smash that like button. It really does help me out. And by the way, if you would like to begin investing, feel free to use my referral link to Robinhood and Webull in the description below. If you sign up with those links, not only do you support the channel by giving me a free stock, but you also get a free stock as well. And especially with Webull, I know that Webull has been giving me like $12 to $20 stocks recently. So if you would like to support me in this channel here, I would really appreciate the love. But anyways, back onto Spotify. As you can see, currently up at a little over $190. It gained 8.77% today so far, which is almost as much as it gained yesterday as well. But you can see throughout the past month, it is pretty much a consistent move upwards at near 30% gain in 1 week. And for a stock that is over $150, that's actually some tremendous gains. In the general stock market, like if you do a comparison to a stock like VOO, it takes about a year just to grow 10%. So this is about 3 years worth of the general typical stock market's growth in only 1 week. And this is the awesome thing that I love about stocks, because examples like this prove how the stock market can make you money if you make smart plays. But I have to admit, this time around, the reason this stock jumped up so much, most of that reason is because of the recent announcement around Joe Rogan transitioning his podcast exclusively to Spotify. And I believe that every bit of his content is going to be deleted off of YouTube and iTunes. So the only way that you can watch future and past Joe Rogan episodes is to go to Spotify. And as you can see right here, it has been reported that Joe Rogan striked a $100 million deal with Spotify to make this happen. And honestly, I can't blame the man. You can't blame Joe Rogan for taking that $100 million deal. I mean, he pretty much still just has to produce the content the same, and it's super cost effective with him taking this deal because he's basically getting $100 million without having to do anything different. It just allocates his content somewhere exclusively compared to pretty much everywhere like YouTube and iTunes and stuff like that. So he basically doesn't have to do anything different except change the distribution, and he's getting $100 million for that. So you truly can't blame him. I would take advantage of that honestly as well if I was in his position. But one major thing that I do wonder about this is I'm not actually sure if Spotify has a video component. I know sometimes it'll show music videos while you're listening to music instead of like the actual album cover, but I just checked recently and there's only like 3 Joe Rogan podcasts on it right now, and it's just audio. So if Spotify doesn't have this already, I would love to just basically see like a video playing service as well, similar to YouTube, especially since there are already so many past podcasts with Joe Rogan that have been recorded in video form that would be a total waste if they put it all exclusively on Spotify simply as audio, because the video form is iconic, and especially even in the finance and stocks world, like with how Elon Musk got on the podcast and did something I can't see in this video just because YouTube doesn't like it. But there's so many iconic moments and memes and just situations that have been entertaining to watch over the past few years. I mean, I've watched Joe Rogan podcast episodes myself as well, so it would be a shame to not have that podcast as in video form. So I do think that Spotify will definitely work something out with that. But regardless, Spotify stock is definitely interesting. I feel like it's certainly overvalued right now. At least it will be for a while because of this announcement and how much it's grown recently. And his 5-year chart does not look super amazing as well. I have to admit, this does not look like a stock I'd like to buy. But if you were able to take advantage of it at a low point in this downturn right here on April 3rd, then you could have made a lot of money off of it. But this is simply one of those events where it's like, how in the world could you have predicted that Joe Rogan would sign a deal with Spotify, which would therefore increase its stock price 30% in 1 week? Those are events that are like pretty much impossible to predict unless you hear some sort of rumor and make a gamble off the fact that you think it may or may not be true. So I have to admit, you really just have to play the game of the stock market with these. You can't really predict an event like like this, unless it's one of those examples of something being hinted at and it's not already priced in, then you can take advantage of something coming up soon, like with Tesla as well. I think with Tesla Battery Day coming out, and I think that event is going to revolutionize their vehicles. So right now, I'm thinking about Battery Day and I'm thinking about future events where, in my personal opinion, from the long-term perspective, I think that Tesla is still a good price right now, especially with the looking glass of the next 40 years. And also in the short term as well, with Tesla Battery Day coming up, we have new vehicle reveals and production announcements in the future as well. So I guess you can kind of look for hints and cues in the stock market, but it's really pretty much impossible to guess stuff like with the Joe Rogan announcement unless you have insider knowledge, which is a whole nother topic. But overall, I think that Spotify is a company. Now, I'm not talking about a stock here because we've seen what the stock has done and how it's performed. This is a pretty solid percentage growth for the past year, but a lot of that is factored from the Joe Rogan announcement where it went up 30%. I've always been an Apple person and had Apple phones ever since I got my first iPhone, so I was pretty brand loyal to the whole interface and even their music players and stuff like that. And I would say I had Apple Music for about 2 years until I finally decided to transition to Spotify to see if I would like it. And for one thing, there was also an additional bundle plan where you could purchase Spotify and Hulu for $5 a month, plus you would get the first 6 months for free, and I got the student discount as well. So that was an absolute steal of a deal for me personally. And when I finally did take advantage of that deal, I realized that I like Spotify a decent amount. Everything is pretty accessible, especially the platform with dark mode on and stuff. It does have an attractive look to it. It kind of reminds me of the Robinhood interface that we're seeing right now. And overall, I've noticed that Spotify does have some like underground artists and underground music that is actually not on Apple Music, but it's on Spotify. However, vice versa can also be attributed to Apple Music as well, where there's some Apple Music content that's not on Spotify. But regardless, it's kind of giving you that extra little bit. Like, for example, some people have SoundCloud because a lot of that stuff is not on Apple Music, but there is some SoundCloud stuff on Spotify Music, which I do like because I'm a big SoundCloud person. I like to find new artists myself. It's kind of fun to do. So in total, the solid thing about this is that they do have good like incentive programs to get people to at least try it. I mean, you get Hulu and Spotify Music for $5 a month, $4.99. That's a steal in my opinion. Even if you don't even use Hulu that much, Spotify costs that alone, so you're just getting that bonus. And then I catch myself watching movies on Hulu sometimes as well. So they offer a lot of good bundle programs and incentive programs that give people free trials and give them a chance to try out Spotify in comparison to Apple Music and other streaming services. And then their platform is solid enough to keep people on it compared to going back. And that's actually a big deal with me as well. Usually I'm pretty loyal to a certain platform, so the fact that I did switch over from Apple Music to Spotify is kind of a big deal because I don't like change in some aspects. So that's another thing that Spotify has going for them. And as you can see, if we just take a look at the Robinhood Gold Research Report, it gets 3 out of 5 stars. And the fair value, it's currently overvalued if we compare it to fair value, which is 150. It says uncertainty is very high. And then here's their EPS, pretty much scattered, nothing too impressive. But I just wanted to mention some positive factors to Spotify as well. We have to admit that their graph is not good at all, really, for the past 5 years. It has way too much volatility. However, the recent year has had some of that, but it's done pretty well in the later weeks, like the past 3 months right here. So this was a pretty nice short-term opportunity for some of those people out there that were looking for something like that. However, I don't think Spotify is the best option out there that you could get for a long-term opportunity for growth. I think like options like Microsoft or maybe even Tesla would be a better opportunity for growth, because I mean, if you look right here, we get at least like 50% a year on average with these past 5 years. That's almost 287% in the past 5 years, which is about 29 years of your typical stock market growth you would get with VOO, which averages about 10% every year. So to put that in perspective, you get about 29 years of growth in 5 years when you select growth stocks like Microsoft compared to other safer stocks like VOO. So it's just all a matter of picking which stock performs better than the one before it. And that's what I did with Microsoft compared to VOO. And that's why I would also purchase Microsoft over Spotify, because I think it will just do better. And my ideology of the stock market is, for one thing, I want to simply just gain money, and for another thing, I want to try to outperform the typical person in the stock market by focusing on growth stocks that I think will grow exponentially in the future compared to just your typical stock market stock like VOO, which does about a 10% gain every year, like I said. So if I can have a decent amount of diversification with a large amount of VOO, then I can select other growth stocks out there that I think will help counter this typical measly 10% every year, which I think will grow it a little bit more. For example, we're already up with Microsoft about 14% just in the past 3 months of investing in this. So I've already done better than the typical year's worth of growth with VOO, and that's what I'm aiming to do with my other stocks out there. And that's also one of the main reasons why I would choose a stock like Microsoft over Spotify. It's all about finding a stock that will perform better than the one you have currently. That's the main goal, but then another goal also is if you just have a high quality long-term stock, there's nothing wrong with just holding it for the long term and not readjusting your portfolio constantly. But anyways, I just wanted to share this little bit of news on Spotify and my thoughts and opinions about the market, including on whether I think Spotify is a good purchase and whether I think it is a good long-term stock. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please make sure to drop a like on the video if you did, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week out there.